And breaking news this morning from Capitol Hill. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is about to make an announcement on the status of the impeachment inquiry into President Donald Trump. Editor-in-Chief Andy Serwer joining me now for more on this. So, Andy, should we expect Pelosi, when she comes out to speak, that they are moving forward with the impeachment articles?
Well, that's what we're anticipating, Alexis. There's no certainty of that. And remember, at one point several months ago, she decided not to go forward with the impeachment proceedings. But it would look very likely that she is going to this time go forward. And I think the difference, of course, has been the Ukraine situation and the investigation there. And the impeachment process is a very unusual one. And this would be the third time that a U.S. president would be impeached. And it's not something to be taken lightly by any means.
And just how these articles of impeachment will be written is ultimately left to Pelosi. I mean, we know she's asking many of her colleagues, but she's really going to have the final say here.
Yeah, that's right. And it's not exactly clear which route these articles would take and what they will speak to directly. And, for instance, one question that many people were asking who are sort of in the know here is, will it include any material from the Mueller hearings? Or will they stick strictly to the Ukraine situation? And just to read about articles of impeachment, a person of high office must be removed upon impeachment if they have committed, and here's the phrase, a high misdemeanor, a felony, or treason. And they are nevertheless subject to indictment under the law. So this is, very high stakes stuff. And of course, by filing the articles of impeachment, it by no means means that the president will be removed from office.
Right.
That means this goes forward, and then ultimately there'll be a vote in the Senate. And the thinking, of course, right now is that the president would have the votes. In other words, the Democrats would not have the votes to actually remove President Trump from office. But all that's subject to change based on news and based on the articles of impeachment and what they say if, in fact, they are filed.
Yep. Now, among the articles that the Democrats are considering specifically, abuse of power and bribery, obstruction of Congress, and obstruction of justice. If she does come out and do what we expect her to do and say they're moving ahead with the articles of impeachment, what comes next? I imagine a vote which they want to get done, I would think, before Christmas.
Right. And when you're talking about the timing, that's very critical, Alexis, because as we get closer to the election, then the president has actually leverage on his side, because he will simply say, you know what, this whole thing just needs to be decided at the ballot box, which is something he's already introduced. And the Republicans have already said that previously, which is, let's let the American people decide. They're going to have an opportunity in November of 2020, and this whole thing is a witch hunt, to use their phrase. And so let's put it directly to the people. And so the longer this plays out, the more weight that argument carries, I think.
Yeah, I think for them, the timing would be a vote before the first of the year, and then it would go to trial in some point in January. But as you were saying, very unlikely that he would be actually removed from office. Yesterday, we had Andrew Card on the show. He's a former chief of staff for George W. Bush, and he said he actually believes that there's enough evidence out there that warranted an impeachment inquiry, but he's very upset with the way the Democrats have gone about it, which is perhaps no surprise from a Republican like Card.
We're right. And the other thing that you're hearing from the Republicans is that, they're moving too quickly. But before it's like you can't move too slowly because then you're going to near the election. So of course, this is gamesmanship by the Republicans, which is to be expected. That's sort of their job.
And here we have Nancy Pelosi walking over to the podium at Capitol Hill. Let's listen in.
Let us begin where our founders began in 1776, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bonds which have connected them with another. With those words, our founders courageously began our Declaration of Independence from an oppressive monarch for, among other grievances, the king's refusal to follow rightfully passed laws. In the course of today's events, it becomes necessary for us to address, among other grievances, the president's failure to faithfully execute the law. When crafting the Constitution, the founders feared the return of a monarchy in America. And having just fought a war of independence, they specifically feared the prospect of a king president corrupted by foreign influence. During the Constitutional Convention, James Madison, the architect of the Constitution, warned that a president might betray his trust to foreign powers, which might prove fatal to the Republic. Another founder, Governor Morris, feared that a president may be bribed by a greater interest to betray his trust. He emphasized that this magistrate is not the king. The people are the king. They therefore created a constitutional remedy to protect against a dangerous or corrupt leader: impeachment. Unless the Constitution contained an impeachment provision, one founder warned, a president might, quote, spare no effort or means whatsoever to get himself reelected. Similarly, George Mason insisted that a president who procured his appointment in his first instance through improper and corrupt acts might repeat his guilt and return to power. During the debate over impeachment at the Constitutional Convention, George Mason also asked, "Shall any man be above justice? Shall that man be above it who can commit the most extensive injustice?" In his great wisdom, he knew that injustice committed by the president erodes the rule of law, the very idea of fair justice, which is the bedrock of our democracy. And if we allow a president to be above the law, we do so surely at the peril of our republic. In America, no one is above the law. Over the past few weeks, through the Intelligence Committee working with the Foreign Affairs and Oversight Committees, the American people have heard the testimony of truly patriotic career public servants, distinguished diplomats, and decorated war heroes, some of the president's own appointees. The facts are uncontested. The president abused his power for his own personal political benefit at the expense of our national security by withholding military aid and crucial Oval Office meeting in exchange for an announcement of an investigation into his political rival. Yesterday, at the Judiciary Committee, the American people heard testimony from leading American constitutional scholars who illuminated without a doubt that the president's actions are a profound violation of the public trust. The president's actions have seriously violated the Constitution, especially when he says and acts upon the belief, Article 2 says I can do whatever I want. No, his wrongdoing strikes at the very heart of our Constitution, a separation of powers, 3 co-equal branches, each a check and balance on the other. A republic, if we can keep it, said Benjamin Franklin. Our democracy is what is at stake. The president leaves us no choice but to act because he is trying to corrupt, once again, the election for his own benefit. The president has engaged in abuse of power, undermining our national security and jeopardizing the integrity of our elections. His actions are in defiance of the vision of our founders and the oath of office that he takes to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Sadly, but with confidence and humility, with allegiance to our founders and a heart full of love for America, today I am asking our chairman to proceed with articles of impeachment. I commend our committee chairs and our members for their somber approach to actions which I wish the president had not made necessary. In signing the Declaration of Independence, our founders invoked a firm reliance on divine providence. Democrats, too, are prayerful, and we will proceed in a manner worthy of our oath of office to support and defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Thank you.
And there you have it, Nancy Pelosi on Capitol Hill making the announcement I think we all expected this morning that they are going to go ahead. The House is going to go ahead with articles of impeachment against President Trump. And Andy, she said the facts are uncontested that Trump used his power for his own political benefit. She said his acts seriously violated the Constitution. And she called upon our forefathers in her speech talking about what they had to say regarding impeachment. Does any of this come as a surprise to you?
It doesn't, and I thought that she, as you said, invoked the founders and put this in historical context, and I thought it was very plain and strong language, which I think is undeniable regardless of which side of the aisle that you sit on, whether you agree with Speaker Pelosi or not. And she is the third most powerful person in our political system in the United States. That's something to remember, I think. And it sounds like that she's taking this responsibility very seriously. And I think that it's something that the president is going to have to be very concerned about, quite honestly.
Yeah, and in speaking about our forefathers, she actually quoted George Mason, who was at the Constitutional Convention so many years ago, saying, "Shall any man be above justice?" She said President Trump's failure to faithfully execute the law has left them no choice but to move forward in this way. She said they will do so prayerfully. I want to mention that Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross actually spoke to Aristobulus Marcellus a short time ago. He's actually in Indianapolis, where he was visiting a woman's prison, and Sabeel asked him about the impeachment inquiry. We should note that what you're about to hear was before the formal announcement from Nancy Pelosi. But here's what Wilbur Ross had to say.
It's a silly diversion of time and effort. Congress would do a lot better to pass USMCA, the wonderful new treaty with Canada and Mexico. That will bring $30 billion of new capital investment. It'll bring 176,000 new jobs. That's what they should be focusing on, not a witch hunt.
Again, he using the word witch hunt as well. Is this a distraction? I'd have to think a huge one for the 2020 election.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, you know, this is very much uncharted waters here, Alexis. So you're going to have both a presidential campaign and an impeachment proceeding simultaneously occurring. And, you know, the Democratic primaries are not that far away. So fasten your seatbelt.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.